evening. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. The Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. We have a repeater located up on Cougar Mountain. We transmit on 70 centimeters. It's a crossband repeater and spits out images at 1.2 gigahertz. The Western Washington Amateur Television Society is a group of amateur radio enthusiasts that take to the airways with fast scan television. To find out more about the Western Washington Amateur Television Society, please Google WW7ATS. That's Google WW7ATS. That will take you to our homepage on the internet. There you'll find the frequencies we transmit on and receive. Also a little background on the club. Also, you will find a link on our front page that will take you to streaming to YouTube. We stream our nets held Wednesdays and Saturdays on YouTube between 8 and 9 o'clock. Also, we'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 with a specific tone of 103.5 for this net. Again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. On the 08 machine, I'm Dave, KD7CYM. I'll pause in case anybody has emergency traffic or needs to make a contact on the net before the net gets fully underway. N7KC. Hearing none, again, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net. So far, checked in by video link is Ron, KD7QKU, Lee, N7KC, Bob, K9PQ, Richard, K7ITX, Jim, N7QO, and myself, Dave, KD7CYM. Does anybody else wish to check into the net this evening?
Dave, this is James, WW7N in Northeast Bellevue.
W7N, James, thanks for joining the net. Well, let's start it off with Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, thank you, Dave, and good evening to the group. KD7QKU here. Well, I almost didn't make it. I sent Richard a text saying I hadn't gotten an invite to Zoom, and he sent me a text back and said, look at your email. Well, I was looking at my email. So anyway, I looked in my junk email. It went into my junk email for some reason. Has never done that before. But I was able to retrieve it, and here I am. Well, another beautiful day. Let's see. I guess since we met last, we had the Easter weekend. We went to church on Easter, and had his son and some other people over and his wife over for Easter dinner. And let's see, last night was a baseball game across the street at the park. Geez, I can never say the name of that park. And I see it all the time. Senior moment, I guess. Anyway, it was Lincoln High School and then the Stadium High School here in Tacoma. And Joanne's niece's son, Eric, plays for Lincoln. It was the worst game I've ever seen as far as baseball games go. It was pathetic. Lincoln were the worst players I ever saw. For high school kids, I mean, gee, many Christmas. They couldn't catch, they couldn't throw, they couldn't think. The pitcher couldn't pitch, and the catcher couldn't catch. So they had a mercy rule. So when Stadium would get 5 runs in an inning, well, then they would call them in, and then the other kids would come up, they would switch. And so Stadium got 5 runs every inning, And at the fifth inning, it was 25-3, I think. Or, yeah, 5 times 5 is 25. So the umpire called it a mercy and ended the game. So Eric, he's probably one of the best players on the team. He actually got 2 hits, and he actually caught 2 balls. The rest of the kids couldn't catch a ball. They couldn't get it in their glove. It would hit the ground, go between their legs. They'd drop it. They couldn't throw it to a base. They'd throw it like at second base or something. They'd throw it over the kid's head, or they'd go out and oh my goodness, it was terrible. I'm telling you, I just was almost ashamed to sit there on their side and watch them play. So they played pretty bad last year, and they sure didn't improve any since last year. So we've watched these kids play for a few years now. And the Jenny, the other niece, they live in Puyallup, and their boy Blake plays baseball, and they actually bought and built him a batting cage and a pitching machine. So out in his backyard, he has a batting cage and a pitching machine. He's getting pretty good, and I think Eric's been over there hitting baseballs because he seems to be batting a lot better than he was last year. So anyway, that's what we did last night. And we had, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 people over before the game. They all wanted to come over here and have coffee and dessert, so they were all over at our house, and then we walked across the street to the park. And it was really kind of cold. It was a beautiful sunny day, but it's a lot windier over there than it is here. It's amazing. Sit over there in the bleachers. I taken one of those fold-up chairs, and I was sitting in a chair, and I'm glad I taken a jacket because I really needed it. Some of the ladies had to leave and come home. It was too cold for them. But so then when we walk back down the berm, it's kind of like a big gravel pit over there, and there's a big berm around it. So we walked back down the berm to the street and then walked over in our driveway. There was hardly any wind, and it was warm, but it was really windy up there, and it was cold, so it wasn't much fun. And then his dad, Matt, I had a smoker, Dave, and I've been trying to give it to Matt for 2 years now, I think, at least a year. So yesterday I sent Matt a picture of it. Didn't say anything, just sent him a picture of it. So he sent me a message back, and he said, I'll drive my truck tonight and pick it up. I said, okay. And so he drove his truck, and then I got out my hand truck, and I wheeled it out to the gate where the motorhome was, and the propane tank and all the other things that went with it. Then I sent him a picture of it just before for him to come over here to the game. So he had to see it all sitting there, so he wouldn't forget to drive his truck. But he didn't forget. Loaded it up and went home. So I suppose one of these days he'll be smoking country-style ribs. That's what it sounded like he was going to do first. Okay, back to net, KD7QKU.
QKU, thanks for that. Let's go to Port Angeles to Lee in 7KC.
Okay, I'll see how this works tonight. Okay, very good. I'm hearing myself back through. Ron, you need to mute. I'm getting a feedback from you. Okay, no problem. Okay, well, good evening from Port Angeles. This is N7KC Lee. And good evening to Jim and James, who I don't see on the screen here. And I haven't seen Richard pop in just yet, but I know he's hosting it. Well, we didn't get any snow today. The National Weather Service through the airport here had indicated that, and one of my radio friends here in town said that it could possibly have been up to an inch or inch and a half of snow. But it's not, it's 40 degrees for Pete's sake, you know, or more, 40 possible, and it didn't happen as it happens. We didn't get it. So I didn't cry over that. That was okay with me. It would have been short-lived anyway if we had. The trees are really looking pretty good over here. The leaves are coming out, you know, and we're starting to green up really good and all that. Yesterday we went to Whidbey Island, just south of Oak Harbor, where Paula's sister-in-law lives. Her brother died on the 2nd of April last year, so we went over there to have lunch with the widow and celebrate that event and all that. And so it was a beautiful day. Jeepers, it was just a nice drive. And I saw all the damage to the house. Well, a lot of it's been repaired now, but she's into, I think, over $100,000 just to fix the house. And they're trying to put up a concrete barrier between the house and the water now. It's never going to work. It's only the construction people doing it. It's only 18 inches deep in sand, for Pete's sake. And you can't convince me that that's going to offer much protection for a big-time storm like they're starting to get. They've had two just this past winter, pretty good-sized storms. Both of them put water in their first level of garage, big time, and so forth. Oops, okay, I'm out of time, so I better wind it up. Anyway, good to see you all. This is N7KC, Lynn, Port Angeles. Back to Dave.
And for ID, this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Bob, K9PQ, and Bottle.
Okay, well, hello guys, good evening. This is Bob, K9PQ, and not a whole lot to report tonight. Highlight of my week was James coming by to pick up the battery and drop off the check to pay for the new battery, to reimburse me rather out of the club funds. And so, but we had a nice chat. It was sunny. It was Monday, I guess, so sunny and warm enough to stand around at my open garage door and just talk for a while. We ended up talking for hours, so that was a nice visit. What else is going on? Oh, Lee, yeah, I'm kind of surprised that they predicted snow. I mean, I could see hail. We got something really weird. It sounded like hail, but when I saw it hitting my deck, I didn't see any bouncing. I didn't see anything that looked white, but it was enough to make my cat go into hiding. So Sparky did not like that at all. She doesn't like any kind of unexpected noise, and that one got her. I think I've mentioned several times, it doesn't take a lot of wind for her to go into hiding. If it's windy out, she will hide. Yeah, what else is going on here? Boy, just not a heck of a lot. I can't think of anything at the moment. Ron, I just would say, yeah, sorry to have to sit through a bad baseball game. My goodness, there's not much worse in the sports world than sitting through an entire bad baseball game. I have done it. So, yeah, good on you for sticking it out. Okay, I'll send it back, K9PQ.
Thanks for that. Well, let's see if Richard's with us, K7ITX in Kent.
Yeah, he just got in under the wire, I guess. You could say that. So, I guess you guys can hear me okay? Is that a fair statement? All right, great. So, let's see. I had a couple comments here, if I can. Oh, well, so Bob, you didn't have too much to comment on, except I always like stories about Sparky. You know, I can, yeah, Mika is very similar. The thing that Mika probably hates the most including the dog, but Mika really hates it when there's a false alarm with the burglar system. That just blows her mind, you know. We can't find her for, you know, maybe a half hour. I mean, she finds places to hide. So if we ever have the burglar alarm on and someone breaks in, Mika will be real safe. I'm pretty sure about that. So I'm not too worried about Mika. Now Pippa is not that smart. So anyway, that's pretty good. And Ron, that's too bad about the baseball game. Yeah, my dad graduated from Stadium High School, and my mom graduated from Lincoln High School. And they both have really nice football stadiums. Oh my God! And I helped remodel Stadium High School. Oh gosh, about I want to say about, I hate to admit it, but it was probably about 20 years ago. It's an old place. Originally it was built as a museum, and then they turned it into a high school. So yeah, I like Stadium High School just for a couple of reasons there. Well, I went in the attic of the old building. My dad said that's where he used to hide. So that's pretty funny. All right, well, the big news is I had my 8th COVID shot. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, there's 8 of them now, and I have my immunization history report to prove it. So I just counted them up, and there's 7 on there documented, and so the one I had today would be number 8. So I know you guys got to get with it. I have to get with it, so I'm with it. And then the other interesting one, hepatitis A and hepatitis B. Anyway, it's on this checklist that I'm trying to take care of right now, and so interesting enough, you know. So I couldn't remember if I ever had those 2 before, and they, you know, my friends at the hospital wanted me to have them, and so so you can go to the Washington State Department of Health, and you can bring up. It's amazing. All your vaccines that you've ever had are in there. And, well, kind of. And when I say kind of, is when I looked at hepatitis A, the status is past due, and it said recommended date January 1st, 1996. So I guess that's past due, you know. But, if you think that's past due, hepatitis B is past due status. How about my recommended date was January 1st, 1986, when I was 33 years old, for crying out loud. I mean, how come no one ever, you would think that all these doctors I've ever been to might catch on to this if this is really true. I mean, holy moly. Me and the pharmacist laughed when we saw that. And this one, if you think that one's bad, how about this one? Polio. Status past due. Recommended date January 1st, 1955? 2 years old? Holy moly. Now wait a minute, I'm sure I had it. If there's one thing that's in my memory banks, it's that polio shot. I just swear to God, because I remember that doctor very well. He was a great doctor, but I hated shots as a little tiny kid. But the thing I always liked, there was always a reward, and the reward was a sucker, and usually on the one end of the sucker would be like a little toy rake or shovel, or, you know, a little axe, or, you know, you always, I mean, you hated the shots, but you always knew you were going to get that little toy. before you left. And so, anyway, that was just craziness. So anyway, I got the hepatitis A and B that I need is 3 shots. You get 1 now, 1 in a month, and the 3rd in 6 months. So, and that'll work. So, anyway, I thought and but before I let you go, around a little bit before the net, and I was at this nearby shopping center, and there's a new, I don't know if I'd want to call it a store or what, but it's called Wizards Keep Games. And, and so I saw these guys walking into the store. I guess that's what they did. I'm not sure what to call it, but I saw these guys walking in there, but they had like suitcases, for crying out loud. And I thought, whoa, you know what? I mean, it looked like something that salesman would carry into the doctor's office, that kind of thing. These pretty hard-sided, they weren't suitcases though, they were real big, giant briefcases with hard sides. And so when I got back, I was real curious about why they would have that. Well, guess what? Tonight is Wednesday board game night. So I think Bob might have an idea about that. And what was in those suitcases, I imagine they were probably special boards for board games. Or, I don't know, the paraphernalia. I don't know what you need for that. I mean, do you have special, avatars that are, you particularly like? Yeah, probably everything above. Special boards and special little pieces. So, it looked, and these guys had the look, I don't want to say nerds, but, they looked like they were ready for some Wednesday, they looked like they were ready for Wednesday board game night. So now I got that straightened out in my mind. So thanks to Bob for all the updates on that over the past years. So that's it. K7ITX, back to net control.
7ITX, thanks for that. And get a quick ID here again. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO. Thank you, Dave. Good evening, everyone. Well, Ron, 25 to 3, yeah, I'd call that mercy. Wow. And it sounds like your internet is working again, sort of, but putting stuff you want in a junk mail file where it's never done it before, I don't know. So, sounds like they're still having some problems. Lee, $100,000 damage. Holy cow. I agree with you. I think the barrier should be larger. And let's see, snow. I've got some friends in Squim, and they've been saying this or that about weather up there. And I've seen sometimes precipitation along your way or Crescent Lake or even or east to Squim. And it seems like the weather, sometimes if you're down at a lower elevation, it's just fine, but all you have to do is go up in elevation a little bit, and it could be quite different. I know there are some subdivisions near Squim that are up on a ridge just a little bit, and it's amazing how different the weather can be there. So, sorry you're behind on the water there still. But oh well. The good news is you didn't have to shuttle anything. So, oh well. Bob. Yeah. Thanks for replacing the battery, and Jim, thanks for distributing the funds. Good job, gentlemen. Bob, you're talking about sitting through a bad baseball game. I'll tell you what my wife detests most, there was a time when I would watch fishing shows, and you can pick up what these, quote, pros do, what sort of lures they're using, and if they're using a crankbait or whatever. It's like my wife just could not handle watching a fishing show. So sporting events, I mean, even the fishing competitions, that does it for her. Dick, wow, that's a whole bunch of COVID vaccinations and hepatitis vaccination to come. One of those, I don't remember which one. One of them is not too bad, but between A and B, but the other one can leave you pretty sore for a while. So hang in there on that. And yeah, I would bet that Pippa would come with tail wagging if a burglar brought treats. I think just in general, dogs are a little bit more friendly to people, or at least most of them are. Some of them like to snarl at anyone, but seems like Pippa only snarls at Mika. At least that's what we've all seen so far. Interesting. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
QO, thanks for that. Well, let's go to James, WW7N in Bellevue.
Hey, this is James, WW7N in Northeast Bellevue. Well, 25-3, it sounds like that was a muscle clenching game, but maybe not the butt muscles. I'm not sure which muscles would be clenched. You kind of wonder how that happens, because you would think that the coaches involved, the schools involved, and everybody involved would just kind of know, sort of what's going on and what this is going to be, or what's the skill levels of the people involved are. So I wonder whether the backstory there is for a high school game. That's really unusual to have people in a high school team that, probably it's just not their thing. Hey, thanks for the weather report there from way up north. Snow, my goodness, it did pour rain here last night. Just as I was going to bed last night, Tuesday night, it poured a great deal, and I thought I got a flash of lightning at one point, but then I started counting for the rumble, and it never came. So I don't know, maybe somebody was just playing with space lasers or some other perfectly reasonable explanation. As far as Lee, the person who's putting 6 figures into their house to try and save it from the sea, I don't know, they really need to consult with a good marine architect, because, man, it starts to get that much, and then aren't you better off just putting some piling, next door, or tear the house down and put pilings in? I mean, I've seen some really good marine architecture the world over, but, and my sister is staying in a place that actually their room was below the ocean water line, so their window doesn't open, but the water's like sloshing up against the window. And that, to me, that is some serious marine architecture to do that and pull that off. I mean, that's basically like building a submarine and sinking it. I'm not sure how they built this thing, but it was pretty amazing. You get into that much money, I'd say tear it down and start over again, only this time, consider carefully, either get it above the water line or build a submarine and sink it. I mean, those are, I think, your two choices for that kind of stuff. Reminds me of a song, You Got to Know When to Fold 'Em. Okay. So Richard see you made it home. I'm glad you look great, by the way. You look fantastic, so that's good. I'm glad that the trip did well for you. I think you got a computer software problem on that software tracking the vaccinations. I think all you need is a creepy Hal voice to say, "I'm sorry, Dick. We can't let you leave the building until you have your vaccinations back to 1955." That's absurd, and that's why software like that needs to be thoroughly tested before anybody, especially patients, get to look at it, because it's kind of damaging to confidence, I think, a little bit. You kind of wonder if their software is that messed up, what else is messed up? Anyway, I think the same guy that wrote the MCAS software for the 737 MAX, so they're probably okay. It's the kind of project that they would do. As far as what's in big suitcases when people walk into the board game, well, we'd have to talk to Bob, but would he tell us the truth, huh? I mean, would you have the little midget in there that hides under the table and moves the pieces around, large amounts of cash to pay in case you lose, or just maybe large amounts of cash to throw into the pile to stay in the game? Oh, come on, Bob, tell us. What's in the suitcases? Yeah, we want to know. With that, this is James, WW7N in Northeast Bellevue. Let's turn it back to Dave, our net control for the Western Washington Amateur Television Society.
7N, thanks for that. And this is Dave, KD7ZYM, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. Well, I did get some good news today. I talked to my brother. He had seen his oncologist yesterday and did some blood tests, and they said he is now in remission from his stem cell transplant, so he's excited about that. He's up to get a vaccine here soon for COVID, but that's the only one. He has to wait till the first of the year to get all of his other shots. His immune system is completely zeroed out, but he's in remission, and he still has to sort of like live in a bubble till the first of the year. Then he'll get all of his shots that we've had in the past. So they'll bring him up to date. And for me, I got out to see a dentist today. I got a crown prepped for a replace. So in 2 weeks, I get the crown installed, I guess. The full one I've got a temporary now. Seems to be good, but they said, don't chew on anything that's sticky. You know, you stop to think about how many foods that you have that are sticky. Boy, oh boy, I guess I'm going to be on soft food for the rest of the 2 weeks. Anyway, that's what was going on there. And did some domestic chores around the house today. So that's about pretty much what's going on in my life in Lake City. This is Dave, KD7ZYM. And let's see what else I can go back here. Get up to Lee with that $100,000 worth of repair on the Whidbey Island home. I would imagine that probably would equal out what the insurance payments would have been for the last 10 years. And they had insurance on the facility out there. So they probably broke even on that, hopefully. And no snow. That's good news. And Ron, high school baseball. Well, I guess maybe they won't play baseball as a career, but maybe they'll be looking for some bat boys around for the baseball league. So they've qualified, at least they know what a bat is and a ball is. So that's pretty good. Battery Bob is now paid for, and we thank him for installing it. We're on a standby basis now up at our site, so that's great. And he's been paid for that. And Richard, vaccines up to date. Boy, you know, I was thinking back when he was talking about vaccines for polio. I was thinking, vaccines? I remember I had to take a drop of something on a sugar cube way back when I was in school. So they spared the needle, but you got the sugar cube with some kind of liquid on it that you got to take. But that was painless and a very sweet way to get a vaccine. And oh my gosh. And Jim, watching fishing shows, I will agree with you somewhat. I think watching baseball games is kind of like watching grass grow. It just seems to go on and on and on, and nothing happens. But that's how it goes. So anyway, that's about what's happening here. This is Dave, KD7CYM, and have James keep his umbrella handy in case it rains heavy again. And this is KD7CYM, so I'll send it back to the top to Ron, KD7QKU.
Okay, KD7QKU here. Well, we didn't have any rain. I got up this morning, the ground was bare, dry, and the rain gauge showed no sign. 41 degrees and the sun was shining and we had blue sky. But I listened to the people up north, and they had all kind of rain and thunder and lightning, and some of them even had a little bit of snow, those up towards Marble Mountain. Talking about that wall, Lee, I only built one retaining wall, so my lot was taller than my neighbor's lot to the west of me there in Bellevue. And there had been some old railroad ties and stuff, and it was kind of a disaster. So I finally decided, after we lived there quite a while, that I put in a concrete wall. And I didn't ask him to pay my neighbor to pay anything because it was kind of my benefit. So I asked Ron, my son, who was carpenter at the time, if he would help me, form it up and everything. So he came over and he said, "Dad, you can't just build a straight up wall, He said, "You're going to have to get a backhoe in here and dig it back 4 or 5 feet. We're going to have to build a wall with an L on it, and the L will be on your side, and then, we'll have the backhoe come in and push all the dirt back in, and we'll have to tie it all in with rebar and everything." He said, "You just build a wall, 9 times out of 10, it'll just, fall over." So that's what we did. We built an L on the bottom of it, and put a few pieces of pipe in it so that the moisture could drain through if there was any moisture in it. And it, it lasted for 30, 40 years and no problem. So I would think on the beach like that, James would have the idea of piling. I think they need to drive piling it, or they have to build it, with a big L, and it has to be, 5 or 6 feet high, for crying out loud, to stop anything. So I don't know exactly what they're building, but concrete's kind of expensive, so our contractors hope they're not wasting their time, and the first time there's a little water hit it, falls over and washes the base out and just falls over. That'd be terrible. So anyway, it seems like there was something else I was going to talk about, but now I completely drew a blank. Yeah, I'm with Dave. I had my polio with a sugar cube with a drop of something on top. So I need to write down, that was the health department, Washington State Health Department. Is that what it was? I'll have to have Joanne check that out. We were just talking about shots the other day. She was wondering, if our measles shots were still good, because there's getting to be quite a bit of measles, I guess, in the country again. And I used to have a vaccination mark, I thought, on my shoulder from the measles vaccine, but I can't find it anymore, so I don't know. I guess that they say you shed your skin. I guess I shed enough skin that the little marks went away. So anyway, it'd be interesting to check us out, see if that. And I did when I worked at Group Health. They had us all get hepatitis, and I had a few other shots at Group Health. But I think I only had one kind of hepatitis shot. And I carry it. I have the card, I believe, in my billfold still. I'll have to look at it and see what they made us get. But they made us get something. Well, maybe they didn't make us get it, but they strongly recommended that we should get it. So anyway, I guess I'm going to send it back to Dave. So KD7QKU, back to the net.
QKU, and time for another ID. This is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. I'm Dave, KD7CYM. Let's go to Lee, N7KC in Port Angeles.
man, N7KC in Port Angeles. Well, yeah, I put a retaining wall, I fixed our retaining wall actually in Seattle. We were up on a bulkhead, and I couldn't put an L in it, but what I did was I put dead men way back in the yard. And, you know, you dig a slot, and the rod goes back, and then there's a big plate back there and so forth, and very, very effective about keeping a wall in place. And you're right. Here's the thing. Logs went through the neighbors' houses, and the windows they went through were a good 10 feet above ground. You know, punched out their windows in the front. Most people have a garage on the lower level. And Jan said that the windows were being smacked by green water so hard that the house was shaking, and she was scared they were going to get breached. And so she and the cats went up to the third level and closed the doors up there. That's about all she could do because she couldn't get away from the place. Anyway, what I wanted to show you, the yacht club this past weekend had a sort of a garage sale kind of thing. It was a parking lot sale. And when we were down there, one of the people in the yacht club did this magazine in a weekend with his wife, printed all this stuff, and all the prose was generated by ChatGPT. And then he printed this stuff on his laser printers. I mean, you would not believe the quality of the stuff that's in this book and the prose that thing generated. He and his wife did it in a weekend. ChatGPT. Can you imagine what this is going to do to the industries and the lifestyle and stuff like that? Let's see if I can find, I don't know, look at some of this. It's unbelievable. It's actually scary if you want to know the truth. In the future, we'll have no idea what is true and what is fake. No idea, on videos or anything like this. And how can you run a society if there isn't some truth? Just look what's going on now. This is N7KC, Lee in Port Angeles. Back to you, Dave.
KC, let's go to Bob, K9PQ.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what to say about the ChatGPT and the what it's going to do to society. There will be some changes, that's for sure. There's going to be some changes, and there's all of Hollywood was up in arms because the writers were afraid that they were going to get replaced by ChatGPT, and so or something specifically made to do that kind of writing. And so I think they all went on strike over it, and I think they got some promises, but it's coming. It's going to happen. Somebody will do it. And so we just kind of have to be on our guard and just realize that everything is not what you seem, or what it seems to be, or is not necessarily made by a human being. Well, let's see what else I have. Yeah, the wall. Lee, I think you mentioned this about a rockery or some such thing. I didn't catch it. Unfortunately, I was distracted at the moment, but you were mentioning something about keeping the wall in place. And we had a rockery at where I grew up. The ground was sloping upward, but the driveway was relatively flat. Had a very, very tiny slope, but basically flat, and went into the hill. And keeping the dirt back on either side was a rockery of very large, very heavy rocks. And I don't think they were even cemented in place. I don't know. I mean, I just took it for granted as a kid. They were just permanent. They were just there. Never really thought about what was keeping them there. Yeah, I think that's another way to keep something like that. And I was thinking as well, like along the lines of what Ron said with the L coming out from the wall. I was thinking they could have some sort of angled brace, holding the wall up, on the side away from the sea. But it sounds like they're not planning to do that. But that would be my thought. Baseball. That is funny about the baseball at Grass Grow, Dave. I once knew a guy who had played minor league ball and loved the game, and he wasn't playing when I met him. He was doing construction work, but hated to watch baseball. And it surprised me, because I was sitting down watching the Mariners game, and he said, "Oh no, I can't believe why do you have that on?" And so what I did was we were watching it. It had been pre-recorded on TiVo. And I fast-forwarded through the commercial, and he said, "Oh, just leave it there." He said, "Oh, yeah, this is the speed to watch baseball." And so we watched the entire game on fast-forward. And it was actually pretty good. It worked out pretty well. And shots. I don't remember how I got my polio vaccine, whether it was shot or sugar cube. What I do remember, though, was the dreaded DPT booster, which was diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus. No, not tetanus. Maybe it was tetanus. Anyway, DPT booster, which booster indicating that I guess I got it when I was young enough to not know I was getting a shot, but then later I had to get the booster shot, and I did not like that. I was of an age when I was terrified of shots. What else? Wizards keep games. Yeah, I looked it up, and this is a trend in there used to be places that just sold board games. Uncle's Games is one that comes to mind. They were in malls, and they would sell board games, and they'd sell like jigsaw puzzles and all kinds of things like that, and the other kind of games, role-playing games. They sell the books for that. But more and more, you've got this like Wizard Keep games where they have that store, but a lot of their business is people coming in playing in their facility. So they have big tables set up with chairs around, and as for what people are carrying in the cases, well, it's hobbits, of course. They're carrying the hobbits in with them, necessary in order to play some role-playing games. But no, seriously, it's it depends on the game. Some of these games, yeah, you've got lots of figurines that people use. Like if you're playing. These days, I'm playing online almost exclusively my role-playing games, and so it's all just on a screen. But people, and I never have got into the whole little figurine thing, but a lot of people did, and they buy these ones and then they'd paint them, and it was a thing. And then you play on a board and you move them around the board, and you would literally use like a dry erase marker or something like that to draw on the board, and then erase it when you move to a different area of the dungeon or wherever you are. And so that's the way it was played for a long, long time. And now, especially since COVID, a lot more of it is online. Let me break for a second. I think I had one other thing. I guess just the main thing is I wanted to ask Richard if there's any news on Iceland. I haven't heard any updates. Maybe it's a bit late for that now. Maybe you won't get enough. Oh no, you're right after me. That's right. So yeah, anything you got on Iceland would be interesting. All right, I'll send it back. K9 PQ.
K9 PQ. Let's go to Richard. K7ATS.
Well, as far as Iceland is concerned, it's still erupting, and it's been erupting now probably going on almost 3 weeks. And because of that, and it's just a couple of vents, but there's one vent in particular that it's most productive. And now I can see, and you can see, anyone can go see some of these live shots of the eruption, and you'll get a good taste of how these mountain cones come to life. I mean, it's, there's lava that keeps coming out, the magma keeps spurting out, but it only can go so high, and so it just keeps building the walls around the vent into the shape of a mountain. And the walls collapse here side's taller than the other and that sort of thing. But from what I've been able to gather is they're not sure what the heck's going on at this point, other than they believe that there is a magma reservoir much deeper than or the, how do I want to say it, the reservoir, so to speak. That's not the term they use. They call it like an underground canal or something that gets filled up. Well, I think a lot of it got plugged up, and so finally the lava system has just bypassed all the other vents that were created, and now it's getting kind of fed direct. So it's really, and then there's this one thing they keep an eye on is the ground level as far as GPS is concerned, and it is rising. So whenever it's rising, that means that there's still business to come popping out still. So that's, but no, I think they're not sure what's happening there. I wanted to say something about measles. I had measles, and it was horrible. I remember I was probably about, I don't know, about 4, 5, 6, could have been 7 years old. I don't quite remember, but I just remember it was awful. You know, I think it gets on your eyes, and you can't really see very good. And I remember any little bit of light was just severely painful. So I always had to be in a darkened room, and it seemed like it lasted for about 2 weeks. And so I was just looking at my immunization record, and I don't see anything called measles, so I see the boosters and stuff. So I don't know if you've had measles. I don't know that you even have to think about it anymore. At least that's what I've been told. Ron's saying he's holding up 2 fingers, so I'm not sure what that's about. And I don't know that I can trust my doctors all the time, but unless, when I look at this, I don't know what DTAP/DT/TD is. I think there's tetanus thrown in there, so I didn't quite understand that one. And then here's, well, the same thing over again. So, and none of these say that I need them right now. So I don't know. And then it's polio. No, I got the shot, and I think I remember later on I got drops on my tongue. But man, the thing I remember about polio, it was awful. You did not want it. And I even remember, you know, Ron, down at Tillow Park, there used to be a public swimming pool there. It's not there anymore. And I remember all excited. The whole family was going there to Tillow Pool, you know, so it was just a really fun thing. But then I remember when it was closed, or people were streaming out when they should be going in. And this is probably, you know, back in, you know, 58, 59, or 60 or 61, right around in there. And people were so afraid of polio that if there was a rumor that someone had polio that was in the swimming pool, they closed it down. I mean, it was a big deal. I don't know. So, but yeah, we had a couple people that had it in school, and you know, sadly, they were paralyzed parts of their body. And that's about all I know. So yeah, if anybody can tell me some more about measles at some point, I'll be real curious to hear it. K7ITX, and I guess it won't come back to me, 73. K7ITX, back to net control.
TX, let's go to Jim, N7QO.
N7QO, thank you, Dave. Well, Jim, yeah, 25-3. It seems to me that maybe I don't remember exactly what you were saying, but it seems to me that after you get maybe about a 10-point lead, maybe you should think about, if you're the winning team, maybe you should think about putting your bad batters in there, and for that matter, all of your bad, your less proficient players, let's put it that way. I don't know. If I were coaching a kid's team and that were the case, that's what I'd do. Give the other guys a fighting chance and give my less talented people an opportunity to play. But that's just me. Dave, your brother is in remission. That is great news. Yeah, he's going to need to stay away from any possible contamination for a while there. That's going to be kind of tough, but it has to be done. But that's great news. Thanks for saying that. Ron, yeah, funny you mentioned that. I noticed my vaccination mark has faded as well, and my wife's has as well. I was wondering about that a couple years ago. It's like, I know I had a pronounced mark there, but it's gone. Lee, that storm sounds like it was a truly frightening experience. Wow, putting it in that light, that's really pretty frightening. And I thought you mentioned that the pros on the booklet there was all done by artificial intelligence, but were the pictures artificially generated as well, or were those actual pictures? Just curious about that. But either way, that looks pretty, I don't know. You know, anything can be good or it could be bad. I don't know. AI has kind of ended my part-time job preparing a thesis or a term paper for some students. And I'm sure it's wiped out a whole bunch of other people's part-time jobs too. Wow. Stand by, the world is changing. Maybe for the good, maybe not so good. Bob, carrying a suitcase to the game, yeah. I was wondering, the suitcase would be just in case you lose while playing the board game. That's a container for your adult beverages, sort of a consolation prize. But I don't know. Dick, yeah, thanks for the update on the magma chamber there. That's still going. It's going to blow again, probably, it sounds like, just listening to that. And let's see, the polio, I seem to remember the sugar cubes as well. Seems to me we had to get 2 of those. Don't remember for sure, it's been too long ago. But measles, wow, 2 weeks with that, Dick. That may have been something more serious. There's like maybe the German measles or something. There's another name for that. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. Maybe Jim knows. But anyway, good luck. Anyway, thanks, gentlemen. Back to you, Dave, N7QO.
QO, and this is the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. And it's time to close off the net. This is been the Western Washington Amateur Television Society net on the 08 machine. We'd like to thank the SeaTac Repeater Association for letting us use WW7STR's repeater 147.08 with a tone of 103.5 for our voice transmissions for our nets held on Wednesdays and Saturdays. So this is Dave, KD7CYM, signing off the net at 9 o'clock. Good evening all.